Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolute masterpiece of story plot, Christopher Nolan's 2000 neo-noir classic, Memento. If you're the kind of person who loves a narrative that literally forces you to act as a detective and piece together a giant puzzle, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to break down how this film's unique structure actually works and why it's so brilliant at pulling you directly into its story. Now, I want you to imagine something for a second. How would you solve a murder? Specifically, the murder of your own wife, if your memory completely wiped clean every 10 minutes. You wouldn't know who you just talked to, where you were going, or what clues you literally just held in your hand. That is the terrifying, high-stakes reality for our protagonist, Leonard Shelby. From the very first frame, the story plot anchors us right in his disorienting shoes. Okay, let's dive into this and map out our investigation board. First, we'll look at a mind without new memories. Second, black and white versus color. Third, unraveling the chronological plot. Fourth, the lie we tell ourselves. And finally, the film's lasting legacy. So, part one, a mind without new memories. Let's get right into Leonard's perspective. You see, Leonard suffers from a very real medical condition known as anterograde amnesia. This isn't just a made-up movie magic. It means he has completely lost the ability to form new long-term memories. And the catalyst for this? It was a brutal attack by two men where his wife was tragically assaulted and murdered. Leonard actually managed to kill one of the attackers, but the second one clubbed him in the head and got away. The police, they don't even believe a second attacker exists, but Leonard knows he does. He believes this guy's name is John G. or James G., and that right there is the engine of the entire story plot, his desperate, hindered pursuit of this phantom killer. So how exactly does a guy with no short-term memory track down a murderer? Well, he has to physically substitute his failing mind with a highly elaborate and honestly pretty unreliable system. He takes Polaroid photos of people and places, scribbles frantic notes on the back of them, and for the absolutely crucial clues, he literally tattoos them onto his own body. It's a fascinating narrative device. He's essentially outsourcing his memory to his environment. But, as we'll see, that leaves him incredibly vulnerable to being manipulated by others. Moving on to part two, black and white versus color. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer mechanics of the story plot. The film gives us two entirely different sequences of scenes that constantly intersperse with one another. On one hand, we have these black and white scenes that move chronologically forward in time. In these, Leonard is mostly just sitting in a motel room, talking on the phone to someone we can't see, slowly unraveling the backstory of a man named Sammy Jenkins. But then, on the other hand, we have the color sequences, and these are shown in completely reverse chronological order. Now, you might be wondering, why tell a story backward? Well, film analyst Stefano Glislotti points out this fragmented reverse sequencing is incredibly intentional. By showing the end of a color scene and then immediately jumping backward to show what caused it, the film forces us into a highly sympathetic, disoriented state. Just like Leonard, we're thrown into a scene with absolutely zero context of what happened right before it. We don't know why he's running, we don't know who he's fighting, and we sure don't know who we can trust because our memory of the immediate past has been stripped away. It simulates his defective memory flawlessly. All right, part three, unraveling the chronological plot. Time to act like detectives ourselves. Let's move to and see how this builds using a numbering scheme laid out by critic Andy Klein. If we were to act as detectives and piece the events together chronologically, how they actually happened in the universe of the film, we'd start with the black and white scenes, which are numbered 1 through 22. During these, Leonard is being actively manipulated by a corrupt undercover cop named Teddy. Teddy steers Leonard to an abandoned building to kill a guy named Jimmy Grants, basically convincing him that Jimmy is the John G. who killed his wife. After those black and white scenes wrap up, the timeline flows directly into the color scenes, which go backward from A to V. And that brings us to scene 22. This is the absolute crux of the entire story plot. It's the exact point where the two distinct timelines finally meet in the middle. Leonard has just strangled Jimmy in that abandoned building, right? So he takes a Polaroid photo of Jimmy's body, and as that photograph slowly develops right before our eyes, the film smoothly transitions from black and white into full color. Forward momentum literally crashes into backward momentum, producing one completely cohesive, tragic narrative loop. Which brings us to part four, the lie we tell ourselves. Right after that shift to color, Leonard steals Jimmy's clothes and actually hears Jimmy whisper the name Sammy. Instantly, Leonard knows something is very wrong, because he had only ever told the Sammy Jenkins story to people he'd actually met. Jimmy couldn't be the killer. When Teddy shows up, he drops a massive, devastating plot twist. Teddy reveals that he actually helped Leonard track down and kill the real attacker a whole year ago. Teddy's just been using Leonard ever since as a hitman to take out other targets, like Jimmy, simply because the name John G is super common. But the darkest part of this whole reveal? That tragic story about Sammy Jenkins accidentally killing his wife with insulin, that was actually Leonard's own repressed memory. His wife survived the break-in, but she had diabetes. Leonard, unable to form new memories, accidentally gave her a fatal overdose of insulin himself. He repressed that entire truth just to escape the crushing guilt. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how critic Scott Tobias sums it up. He notes that Leonard is guilty of extreme confirmation bias. When Teddy confesses all of this, Leonard makes a truly horrifying conscious choice. He flat out refuses to accept a reality where he accidentally killed his own wife and his revenge is already over. No way. Instead, he purposely burns the photo of the dead Jimmy, and he burns the photo of his actual successful revenge from a year ago. To give his life a sense of purpose, he deliberately sets up Teddy, whose real name is John Edward Gommel, as his next fake target. He scribbles "don't believe his lies" on Teddy's photo and writes down his license plate to get it tattooed. Leonard is willfully lying to himself, entirely constructing a fake reality just to keep his hunt going. Finally, Part 5, the film's lasting legacy. While most Hollywood movies completely just make up the rules of amnesia as they go, this story plot actually received incredible praise from medical experts. Caltech neuroscientist Christoph Koch called it the most accurate portrayal of memory systems in popular media. Dr. Esther M. Sternberg from the NIH said it's essentially a perfect exploration of the neurobiology of memory. And clinical neuropsychologist Sally Baxendale praised how accurately it showed the harsh daily realities of anterograde amnesia. The film's entire fragmented structure perfectly mirrors the perpetual present that these patients actually live in. So, the crucial point is that this film somehow managed to balance intense scientific accuracy with massive commercial appeal. Even though major studios initially passed on it because they were terrified it was too confusing, New Market Films took a gamble, and it paid off. Made on a modest budget of around $5 to $9 million, the film pulled in over $40 million worldwide, largely driven by incredible word of mouth. Its legacy was literally cemented in 2017 when the U.S. Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. A real game changer. So I want to leave you with a final thought, one that's deeply tied to Leonard's tragic choice. In psychology, there's this concept known as confabulation. It's when the mind subconsciously fabricates memories just to fill in the blank spaces. This film masterfully uses that idea to pose a really unsettling question. If we are all capable of deceiving ourselves to some degree, how much of our own daily reality is built purely on the things we simply wish to believe, rather than the cold, hard facts? It's a question that's going to stick with you long after we wrap up here. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and hey, always remember to question the evidence right in front of you.